we're all ignoring the elephant in the room. There's an email that says that Donald Trump blew Bubba. Now, some people think Bubba's Bill Clinton. Some people think it's a horse. Some people think whatever. Now, I didn't write the email. In fact, when I first saw it online, I didn't even believe it.
Y'all, did Donald Trump blow Bill Clinton? That is the question that has had the internet abuzz after a fascinating email exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother Mark was revealed in the House Oversight Committee's document drop over the weekend. And you're gonna be shocked by Mark Epstein's response to this story, but Cenk, please, what is your 2 cents on this?
Oh boy, I didn't see this one coming. Apparently neither did Trump. Okay, we're gonna talk about the potential veracity of this. And apparently there's at least a question of a Russia connection, but there's always something a little bit more important behind a story like this. So we'll get to that as well.
Okay, so Mark Epstein, he was writing to his brother, Jeffrey Epstein, on March 19th, 2018, and he says, how are you doing? What is your boy Donald up to now? To which Jeffrey responds, all good, Bannon with me, referring to Steve Bannon. Mark writes back to Jeffrey, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Okay, so Bubba was a nickname used for Bill Clinton. So speculation immediately began that Mark Epstein was claiming that Trump blew Bill Clinton. But now Mark Epstein is saying that the exchange was, it was being misread and that Bubba actually referred to someone else. Here's what he said. He said they were simply part of a humorous private exchange between two brothers and were never meant for public release or to be interpreted as serious remarks. For the avoidance of doubt, the reference to Bubba in this correspondence is not in any way a reference to former President Bill Clinton. Ali Clark, a spokesperson for Mark Epstein, also said that Bubba is a private individual who is not a public figure.
Okay, hold on, yes, I'm gonna jump in.
Yes.
Wait, they're saying he actually did blow a guy. That's amazing.
They didn't say that he didn't blow someone.
Yeah.
It just wasn't Bill Clinton.
First of all,
yes,
there's a million guys with the nickname Bubba. If it was Bill Clinton, I'd fall out of my chair. The most shocking thing that ever happened in American politics, right?
So I mean, it would explain why he was so antagonistic to Hillary during their election.
I never thought about it that way. He's like, oh, Hillary's so bad. Get off my Bill. Get off my Bubba. Okay, so no. Guys, look, fine. It's not, I have no problem believing that it's not Bill Clinton. But holy cow, Jeffrey Epstein's brother is saying, yeah, it wasn't Bill, it was another guy that Donald Trump gave oral sex to. And yes, there's another part of this story I don't understand. Mainstream media loves anything that attacks Donald Trump, is salacious in nature, and they haven't touched this with a 10-foot pole or a couple of inch pole. So what's going on here? How is this not an interesting story? I get that it's salacious, and we'll talk about whether it's relevant in a second, but it's certainly interesting. No one in mainstream media found this interesting, especially because there's a reference to Putin. All this talk of like, hey, did Putin have anything on him? And here's the Epstein boys going, hey, does Putin have that picture on Trump? Wait, does he have a lot of pictures on Trump? Did Epstein give him the pictures from Trump? Oh, that seems super relevant. Yeah, people should be talking about this.
Yeah, so Mark didn't provide any additional context as far as who Bubba actually was. There was a bit of speculation that Ghislaine Maxwell had a horse named Bubba and that maybe that was who Donald Trump blew, but it was very Mark Epstein, as much as you can trust his word on this, he was very clear that it was a someone, not like a horse, right? An individual.
It's not a horse, he didn't.
It's not, I'm gonna say it's not a horse. I will concede that it's not a horse. It would be a lot
Trump's
more fun
a
if it was Bill Clinton.
Like, I don't know.
Okay. But like we see now maybe just a glimpse of what was so scary about all of this coming out for Donald Trump. He has made his entire career, both as a public figure and as a politician, on being this strong man who gets all the ladies and spies on teenage girls in dressing rooms and has all of these wives and things like that. But in the midst of all of this, it was really just one of the most bizarre weekends I think we've ever seen as a country, which I understand that is a very big statement to make. But we get this release that Donald Trump has blown someone called Bubba. And also, he spent the weekend blasting music from the White House speakers before he fled to Mar-a-Lago. It was so bizarre. Like, I don't know if you saw that one, Cenk, but he was blasting the Phantom of the Opera, like the original Broadway cast recording with Michael Crawford, who he also wanted to honor at the Kennedy Center. So like, that's a weird thing that Donald Trump and I have in common. We're both big fans of Michael Crawford, but I don't know who else like pays attention to him, but he was like blasting the Phantom of the Opera and like just having a pity party for himself. And then he comes out a day later saying, you know what, just release the files. And then to your other point, it does say something that, in my online sphere, this was all anyone was talking about over the weekend, but it really didn't get a whole lot of coverage on mainstream news. And, as much as I rail against social media, I keep it because a lot of times you do get stories that just aren't covered. And even on this show, there's so much that happens that we just don't have time to cover. We have to pick which stories are, the most interesting or the most relevant to, our audience, but there's a lot that gets left out. So it does help to get things from different sources, but this feels like a big deal, this story.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not verified, so that's why they haven't commented on it before, but I feel like it should have been a bigger story.
Yeah, so look, Phantom of the Opera, there's a guy with a mask hiding his real identity. Trump often comes on stage to the song of YMCA. Look, we're pro-LGBTQ. If Trump's in that category, God bless, welcome, no problem at all. But guys, putting aside the fun stuff, do I believe that he did it? I have no idea. How would I know? I don't know. And could they just be joking? They could just be joking. But what's weird is Mark Epstein saying, no, it was a private correspondence, but there really was a dude. Okay, that's okay. Now, the relevant part. Because the rest is like fun and we could all make jokes about it. But there is a super relevant part here. A lot of people think that the whole point of Epstein videotaping everyone and taking pictures of everyone is for blackmail. Well, did they have blackmail on the president of the United States? Who is they? And then they joke around about whether Putin has the blackmail on Donald Trump. And we all know because of drop site news that Epstein was working with a foreign government, was working with the former prime minister of Israel, working with intelligence officers from Israel. So they stayed over at his house dozens of times. And he strategized with them on how to get America to bomb Syria and to bomb Iran. So if they had blackmail of any sort on this president, that would be a massively relevant story. And if you're, in mainstream media, you're like, oh, how dare you, not beloved Israel. Okay, maybe it's Russia. You don't mind Russia, right? You talked a lot about that. I mean, it's certainly something to explore to see if there is blackmail or there isn't blackmail. But what's interesting is, yeah, it seems like the day after we found out about Bubba, Trump's like, forget it, just release the files. What difference does it make now? Right? And so you remember the theory that I had, I don't know if you do, Yaz, but I said, look, a lot of people keep saying, including a lot of the victims, that Trump didn't do anything illegal, right? But yet Trump seems to be scared to death of these files being released. And I had this funny little theory that maybe it's because they have him on tape being naked and he was just embarrassed about that. And that's why he didn't want it released. But Bubba would explain how he might not have done anything illegal, but was desperate to keep the files from getting released because of something else in there that is not illegal, but deeply embarrassing to him. And so I really don't know, guys. There's no way for me to know. But you now know what we know. And I think by far the most relevant part of the story is whether things like that exist on Trump or any other politician, and if anyone is currently using them as blackmail on those politicians.
Yeah, and I know we have to wrap this hour, and I think you guys are actually going to talk about this on the next hour with Jordan. But this does kind of go to your point about how powerful Jeffrey Epstein was while he was alive and how well connected he was to these very, very powerful leaders. He just casually was talking about Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in these emails with his brother, even as he was joking. And even though it was a joke, we do know that he had very, very strong ties to these people. And now, actually, in one of the emails that we saw, he even said, like they're trying to take down Donald Trump, but it's funny because I'm the only one who can take down Donald Trump. And that does seem to allude that he has, actually incriminating or devastating information and evidence against Donald Trump. And he's so powerful that he's doing all of this now as he's deceased.
Yeah, no, you know what? Real quick, yes. To that point, Michael Wolff and Epstein have a email conversation right before the 2016 election, and Wolff, who pretends to be a journalist, but in the emails is conspiring with Epstein, again, seeming to want to help a third party, whatever that third party is, having nothing to do with his reporting or anything. But anyway, Michael Wolff then says to what appears to be in the emails his co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein, hey, this might be a good time for you to put away Donald Trump if you want to. So Epstein is so powerful, and there's a cabal of people apparently who are secretly deciding who's gonna win, who's gonna lose, which information you're gonna get to see, which information you're gonna not get to see. And whoever Epstein and his handlers were, they decided not to use that information against Trump. And look at that, Trump now totally loyal to one country. But I'm sure it's all a coincidence. Of course, all a coincidence. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.